Dr. Rena here. I'm a global dental specialist and founder of RW Perio, located at 75 Harley Street. Welcome to season 3 of my podcast, Life and Smile, where we talk about everything dental, lifestyle, business, and much more. Every episode, I'm joining conversation with a specialist expert in their chosen field, who gives us a behind-the-scenes glimpse into their daily regime, career turning points, and an insider look at what they can't live without. As a businesswoman myself, it's so inspiring to hear how people have built their careers and shattered those glass ceilings. This third season is sponsored by Colgate. Committed to sustainability, they're obviously a household name, and as a dental expert, they are my personal fail-safe go-to to ensure my smile is always looking and feeling its healthiest. So, let's get the conversation going. Building and growing a business and brand as an entrepreneur ensures your role is constantly evolving on a daily basis. Through this podcast, Life and Smile, the conversation has advanced rapidly by bringing together some of the most successful leaders across many and often contrasting industries. Today, we bring it back to dental, where we meet Freya Evison. As the marketing manager for Northern Europe at Colgate-Palmolive, she is at the center of a caring, innovative growth company that is reimagining a healthier future for all people, their pets, and our planet. We've been so delighted that Colgate have sponsored Series 3 of our Life and Smile podcast. And on this episode, I've been particularly excited as a dental expert myself to discover and share the in-depth world of Colgate. So, Freya, welcome to Life and Smile.
Thank you so much for having me. That introduction makes me feel very important.
You are important, and Colgate is so important.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So, it's going to be fun.
No, excited for this conversation. So, as a globally renowned brand, Colgate is, of course, the number one toothpaste brand in the world, with 4 tubes of Colgate toothpaste sold in the UK alone every minute.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. I mean, it's a staggering statistics. How do you ensure that Colgate stays one step ahead when it comes to breakthroughs in latest technology and best-in-class ingredients?
This is a great question and a big question. And I think, when you have a big brand like Colgate that's so established and such a part of people's heritage, we're always thinking about how we're evolving and how we're transforming, because that's so important to stay at the forefront for professionals like yourself, for consumers, and really to stay relevant for people. So I think the first thing I'd say is that Colgate, so our brand and any innovation that we do, is really driven by people. So we're obsessed with people, as we call them, so not consumers or any other kind of language. But we're always thinking about, the mum who's buying the toothpaste for her family, or the kids who are at home using our toothbrushes, the dental professionals who are, recommending and selling our products. So, like I said, we're obsessed with putting these people at the heart of our brand and really thinking about how that drives how we innovate. So what that means is that we're always trying to learn and understand about people. So new trends, new behaviors, where we see new challenges for people coming up in their life, in their oral care, where there's tensions, and really developing products, services that respond to this. So that's really important, because it means, an innovation is only successful if it's answering a real people need. You can come up with something that's, a very cool, new, shiny ingredient or technology, but if it's not actually solving a need and a job to be done for people, it's not actually going to be breakthrough and change people's experiences or drive growth for our business. So I think how we put people at the heart of it is the first thing in terms of how we really innovate. The second thing, which you've got to say, is, it's all about the outstanding R&D, so the research and development teams that we have. And Colgate is such an important part of our organization. We have, unparalleled resources in these areas. We've got like 700 technologists globally who are working every day on developing new technologies, new ingredients, new formulas. How can we do better? Clinical studies. We've got 6 strategic innovation centers globally. So again, lots of focus around the world and kind of talent and brains going into that. I think where the magic comes and where Colgate's really special is about how we connect those R&D people, those scientists, those professionals with the rest of the organization. So it's not them in a vacuum in a lab developing those new technologies, but how do we connect them with the people who are understanding what are those trends amongst people? What are the needs that we want to solve? So it's not coming in a silo, but it's, again, how do we laser focus that in areas where people need solutions, where professionals are looking for, new technologies, etc. And I think that's how we really approach innovation. And I think that's how Colgate, that's a brand that's been around for, actually, this is bad because I'm a Colgate person and now I'm blanking the year that we were established.
A long time.
But for such a long time, we can continue to be really at the cutting edge.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love the fact that you've reframed from seeing as individuals and people rather than consumers. And I think that's so important. Even when sometimes we get caught up with, as dental professionals, we like to see our patients, but actually that is an individual. And sometimes even worse, you're just looking at the mouth. But really, especially now with perio, you really have to treat people holistically. And I think understanding them as individuals with their whole life story that goes with it, and then trying to use that to target and actually how, as you said, how can you help them and what's the need that you can fulfill, essentially. I think that's brilliant.
And I think being, like you say, being curious about people and actually starting almost a step back, like think about people's lifestyles, what's important to them at a much broader human level.
Yes.
And that can actually unlock and open up really interesting things, which then connect to routines, behaviors, how people think about self-care, how people think about their identity, and how smiles and oral care is actually a huge part of that. So it's really
and building it into their lifestyle, I think, is absolutely key. With the clinic, we've always said it's a lifestyle approach. It shouldn't just be a separate thing, but build self-care into your daily routine as such. I love the fact that you guys link the science group with the people who are doing the marketing and in the innovation, because I think that's so important. You get so many companies where, as you quite rightly described, they're in a vacuum, and that's kind of, they're coming up with some amazing ideas, but they never then get translated. So I didn't realize there were so many people in R&D.
We have a lot of,
that's incredible investment,
people, much smarter than me, who are working on all of our ingredients and our technologies.
So it's constantly just being improved and getting better and better. Right. So Colgate, as it is a household name, the brand is instantly recognized, and as a company that has over 34,000 people all dedicated to improving our health and wellness, you guys have achieved so much over the years. Talk us through, of the time you've been there, even from before, what have been the most impactful achievements to date?
That's a good question, because there's been a lot. It's hard to narrow down, and I think you said it there with how many people there are in Colgate, and it takes a village to make things happen. And that's one thing which, again, is really special about Colgate, is how we mobilize all of those people to really make a difference and really move the needle in oral care. I think really the commitment that we have to furthering oral health of communities is something that we're super passionate about, and is something that we're really proud of. So actually, a really nice example that I think we've chatted about before that's quite recent is our partnership with the Change Please organization. So Change Please is a social enterprise, a charity that supports people experiencing homelessness. And as we know, homelessness now more than ever is becoming an issue. And actually oral care is a huge factor and experience that those people have. So, obviously the immediate critical oral health needs that they have. And the other insight is it's really hard for those people to get treatment when you don't have a fixed address. So we realized, and Change Please kind of, we reached out to them and they reached out to us, and we were kind of talking and thinking, how can we as a brand, as the global leader and the leader for oral care in the UK, it's really our duty to be part of finding solutions and helping to make a difference in this area. So we took a London bus, an ex-London bus, and basically converted it. So we completely stripped it out inside and fitted a full dental surgery. And essentially, together with Change Please, that goes around at the moment parts of London. We're expanding to other areas in the UK to offer oral health services, frontline to people in urgent need. And that's made a real difference to people's lives. We've had amazing support from professionals who've reached out to us, offered their time and volunteered to be part of that through CDS, through community dental services. And I think that's really an example of a broader, long-standing commitment that we have. And I think that matters because a lot of brands, quite rightly, have these kind of CSR and social responsibility commitments, But really, to build that trust with people, you've got to come good on it. Like, you've got to walk the walk, and you've got to show that commitment. So I think that's something that we're really proud of, and we're looking forward to seeing that expand and see that grow
I think it's incredible.
in the next year or so.
It just shows how much impact you can have as a brand via these kind of other activities that you do, and the fact that it's so nice when everyone gets involved and wants to get involved, and everyone wants to be on that bus helping the homeless. It's and when you hear, I'm sure the people who are on the front line in the bus dealing with the homeless, the difference it can make to them, the quality of life when you can just if you have dental pain before, you know how bad it is, and if you can just make that small difference, the quality of life impact you can have is huge.
Exactly, because to the point we were saying earlier, it's not just about the oral care, it's also about an expression of care to those people.
Yes.
It's about how do we show that they're valued and that they deserve that care just as anybody else does. And so it's really a duty that we be part of, in a small way, trying to make a difference in that area.
Big difference. And Colgate has been dedicated to improving oral health of children, specifically through Bright Smiles, the Bright Futures program, which has reached over 1 billion children since 1991. Can you provide an insight into just what a difference it can make to care for smiles from a young age?
I'm sure that you as a professional as well, and you'll have seen children. This is huge. And Bright Smiles, Bright Futures is a huge passion within our organization, as you talked about, from 1991. This is a long-standing program that we've run. So BSBF, Bright Smiles, Bright Futures, is essentially a program where we work with governments, schools and communities to provide oral health education to children, both via schools, so going in and supporting teachers with educational materials, etc., and also through professionals like yourself. And as you say, this is a global program. And now it's more important than ever. The impact of COVID was huge in dentistry, right? I mean, it was so difficult for people and children to have access to dental care. We've seen statistics that 1 in 3 children experienced dental issues during COVID. And now, really sadly, particularly with the impact of the cost of living crisis, that's become sort of even more urgent. And, I think it's so important to have children instill those healthy habits early, because we know that those behaviors stick and they translate into adulthood. So it's like any habits that we're trying to teach children, right? Yes. We teach them to tidy their rooms so that they keep a clean house. We teach them to say please and thank you so that they become, polite people. And it's exactly the same with oral care. And we know from, again, insights and looking at those behaviors, it's much easier to establish that habit early than have to undo damage and relearn routines later in life. So it's really an investment, but we know that it's tricky for parents because brushing time is often painful, involves, tantrums and all the rest of it. So how can we provide products that offer kids the best care? How can we give parents resources to help them navigate that brushing time, which we know can be sticky for them? So that's something that we're really focused on as kind of investment.
For sure, I completely agree. I think getting the habits right from an early age, that prevention will literally change the whole trajectory of that patient's future, or that person or individual's future care. And I think if you can get it right from the beginning, I think oral health will be so different in the future. But I think you're right. The trick is trying to find products that make the whole experience more enjoyable, because really we want them to look forward to it. And I think with us, we don't see tons of children here, but we've launched something called Polish and Perfect the Mini, where we get a lot of our adult patients, their children come in, and we do like a mini version of a hygiene appointment where we go through all the home care and make it fun for them. Because really we want people to look forward to coming to the dentist as well. And,
exactly.
And I think it works. And even with our adult patients, initially they hate doing the oral hygiene, but after a couple of weeks, I really love this. I love the routine. I love how it makes me feel. And it's almost like their self-care me time. So they just put on a podcast and, do their incidental brushes.
They could put on this podcast.
They can put on this podcast. Exactly. But no, I think it's, I completely agree. Yeah. So Colgate is the number 1 recommended brand by dentists, obviously. But how do you ensure it remains the most sort of trusted oral care brand in such a competitive marketplace? Because there are so many brands out there now.
Yeah, I think the key word that I would use is partnership. because it's really about how do we build partnerships with professionals to really develop that trust. It's, not just about coming in and trying to push recommendations, and obviously that's something that we want to share with you guys about the newest innovation that we have, but how can we partner with you, understand what the challenges are, understand what you guys need, and be part of coming with the solutions on that. So we have a lot of commitment to, education in dental schools, for example, which I know you've been a part of. How can we understand, the challenges that you're facing and bring technologies, services, etc., which can really support that. And that's a huge part of the trust is, when Colgate is the brand recommended most often by dentists, that's huge for people because we know how influential professionals like yourself are in shaping the outlooks and the perspectives of people. And then I think it's really simply about putting the best technologies out there that really make a difference to people. Kind of comes back to what we were saying earlier about how important research and development and innovation is. That's how you gain and keep people's trust, is if you give them experiences and give them products that truly make a difference to their oral health needs and therefore to their life more broadly. That's how we do it. And then the third one, and again, we've kind of touched on it, is how do we show the commitment to communities? Like, how do we show people about our commitment to oral health, to Bright Smiles, Bright Futures, yes, to those kind of campaigns, I think is all around how we build that trust. And Colgate is really fortunate to be such a trusted brand, and that's something that is very precious. We take that very seriously and we think very carefully to make sure that we maintain the reputation that we have.
No, absolutely brilliant. I think it's that 360 kind of care for it. So Freya, bringing back to the topic now to your own role as marketing leader working internationally, you've been with Colgate for over 8 years, initially enrolling in their graduate program, following on from your time at the University of Cambridge, where you received a BA in history. How did you manage this transition, starting your career path into the industry? And do you have any advice for others, perhaps in a similar position, passionate about sort of brands, people, and all the connections between them?
Yeah, this is a good question, because when I did history and then went into selling toothpaste, it didn't feel like the most obvious transition. I think at first people were like, okay. There's actually something I'm really passionate about, career development and how I can learn from other people, and also how I can kind of help support people in that as well. So it's something I'm really passionate about. And I'd say there's probably 3 bits of advice that I would give people. Okay. So the first, which is particularly relevant when you're thinking about transitioning, be that into, early in career or thinking about moving into a different industry or a different area. And that is that relevant experiences can be found in unexpected places, right? So there's no set background, and I think I'm probably proof of that you need to become a marketer or, go into the oral health industry, for example. So if you think about me for a minute, like I did history. How is that relevant to what I do today? But actually, when I stop and think about it, I'm like, no, I can see that there were relevant skills that I learned from that, and it was just about applying them in a different context, right? So firstly, we've talked about this already, I'm super fascinated by people. I'm like so curious about, cultures, trends, identities, how people express themselves, what's important to them. Now, that was relevant when we think about historical stuff. It's also really relevant when we think about how we build brands and how we innovate in a way that matters to people. Storytelling. So when you're building an argument and trying to, express a point of view, again, relevant when we think about that, but also that's what I do every day. That's what I'm doing when we're trying to build impactful marketing plans for consumers. It's also what I do internally when I'm trying to convince my, bosses that the strategy makes sense. Yes. So again, that's really relevant. Taking lots of information and data and distilling that down into an idea. Again, that's something that I learned, very different context, but is what we do all the time when we're taking, insights, market research, and figuring out, well, which piece of innovation should I launch? So I think my advice would be, don't be bound by the experience that you have, but really strip it back. Think about the fundamental skills that you have and how you're able to lift and shift them into a different context. That'd be my first piece.
Brilliant, yes.
I think the second one, which is probably not surprising, is embrace opportunities including the ones that make you uncomfortable, and actually especially the ones that make you feel uncomfortable. And this is like a little bit cliche, right? But really that progress comes out of your comfort zones. And the roles where I found that I've really developed and stretched my skills has been the ones where I've thought, oh, I feel a bit nervous about that before. This is maybe not what I was expecting, whether it's, a new geography. I've worked in different markets. In Germany, I was in Switzerland. If it's a different area of the business, a bigger team. But actually, thinking big and being bold about your ambition and what you achieve. And I always particularly stress this piece of advice to young women, because I think we so often put boundaries on what we think we can do, like what we think is possible and the role that we think we can do next. So I would say, like, unburden yourself from that and imagine the possibilities and really go after it and seek it out. This one's quite a long one, Rena, because I'm very passionate about it.
I love it, loving it. Keep going.
And then the third piece of advice I would give is find amazing mentors.
Yes.
So find people that you admire, that you trust, that can guide you and support you. And what I would say is, when we say mentor, a lot of people think it's going to be a very senior person who's super experienced and established. And absolutely, those people can play an important part. But I always say think up, down, and sideways. So also you can learn so much from people who are your peers,
yes,
from people in your team. And, they're really important guides for giving you that advice. And, there's probably 3, 4, 5 people in my career who've been really instrumental in helping me navigate challenges, in, helping me define my career ambitions and how I'm going to progress. And also just day to day, like giving you advice, being a listening ear when you're having a bad day. And I need to be like, girl, I need some help here. What am I going to do? And you can't do it on your own. And I think get comfortable with asking for help, find the people that you trust, and don't be afraid to seek out that support. So they would be my 3 bits of advice.
Wow, amazing. So using skills that you've learned elsewhere, in your current role, and not every experience is an experience and a learning curve, I guess. Getting uncomfortable and then surrounding yourself with the right people and mentors. I completely agree with all of them. Really powerful stuff. With the kind of landscape changing, I mean, now in the past decade, there's been so much on kind of digitalization, consumerization, all of that, lots of social media. Everyone wants like instant access for everything. Mm-hmm. Do you think this has paved the way for transformation for Colgate, and how do you think that's kind of helped?
Yeah, I think I actually think it hasn't paved the way is probably an understatement. It's like it's the engine for a huge transformation that's happening now, in our industry and many industries, and is a massive focus for Colgate. And I think first and foremost, and I sound like a broken record because this is so important, but it comes back to people. Digital, and that access to information, etc., has revolutionized the way that people engage with their oral health, interact with, our categories with healthcare. It's democratized information, the way people consume information. It's changed the way people consume advertising. So it's no longer just about, great, we put something on TV and everyone's going to see it. We now, there's a multitude of touch points and platforms where we have access to audiences. And it's completely changed the way that people shop and buy products, and, other industries. It's huge if we think about, fashion, etc. But it's revolutionized oral care as well. And so really our job as Colgate is to transform to reflect these behaviors, because we want to meet people where they are. We want to be reflecting, to our point earlier, we need to be a reflection of the society that we're serving and that we're a part of. So it's completely changed the way that we think about marketing plans. We're so much omni-channel focus right now. It's changed the way that we think about what we call our go-to-market strategy. So how do we launch a product in terms of which retailers are we going after? How does e-commerce fit into this? Are there direct-to-consumer opportunities? It's really challenging us to think differently about this. But I think the biggest and probably the most exciting piece is around how it's transformed our team and our organization. Because basically what it's driven is a huge upskilling in, across everybody within Colgate. And what we often talk about is that digital is not something which, the digital manager takes care of, or the e-commerce, salesperson leads. now we're really saying this is something that everyone has to take on, and it's something that everybody in our team is doing. And we've invested a lot of time and development in our teams in those areas, which I think has been a really exciting transformation and opportunity for people and for Colgate. So it can't be understated.
Oh, amazing. You guys have thought of everything. It's super impressive. So finally, when it comes to sort of new upcoming products, tell us sort of what are the kind of latest trends that we should be aware of, and what's kind of focus interests of your audience now going forwards?
Yeah, so I think there's probably two big ones that I would talk about. The first is whitening. Okay. Whitening is a huge area and has for a long time been a perennial desire for people, is a beautiful white smile. We've seen a real resurgence of it as well post-pandemic. So funnily, interestingly, one of the insights we had is with people working from home, being on Zoom meetings, people have become a lot more self-aware of their smile. Mm-hmm. It's also the same with orthodontics as well. We've seen a huge rise in as well. So now that kind of we're, let's say, transitioning back into the world and people are kind of back out socializing, the whole glow up, I mean, it sounds a bit, we see it on social media, but people kind of want to come back out and feel their best self. And so there's a huge demand and desire for whitening at the moment. And Colgate is really the leader in this segment, certainly here in the UK. We've always been at the forefront of driving innovative whitening solutions, certainly on the consumer, what you can buy in supermarkets, etc. So we're really focused on doubling down here, and it's a big priority for our research teams. We've also recently launched our professional whitening solution. So this is a high 6% hydrogen peroxide solution. So again, really looking at how we can focus on the full 360 needs of consumers, so that whether it's a toothpaste that somebody can go into a supermarket and purchase, or the very best technologies that they come to professionals and buy, we're kind of looking at how we innovate and change things in all of those areas. So whitening is huge. The second one, which feels in some ways a little bit contradictory, but I think is so important, is value. And what I mean by that is, well, the context, first of all, is that obviously we see huge inflation at the moment. A lot of people are experiencing cost of living pressures, and people are having to make choices around where they spend their money. So a huge focus for us is how we create value for consumers at every price point, because Colgate is a broad church. So whether that's bringing new and improved technology, even in our entry tier toothpaste. So people who might be having to make choices around their basket and what they're spending their money on, still have access to the best oral care technology. It's looking at, how we use our pack sizes. How can we, how do we offer that value to people when that's particularly challenging? And I think, again, to kind of come back to a theme that we've talked about, continuing our work with communities. So there's been, a lot of press coverage recently of the challenges in schools, just with pure access of young people to oral health products and oral health education. And so we're really looking and asking ourselves, okay, we talked about the huge commitments that we have, and how can we dial that up, and what can we do to be a part of that? So I'd say two quite different areas, but I'd say they're a key focus for the teams right now that we're really looking to accelerate in.
Amazing. And any kind of latest projects or things coming up that we can kind of stay tuned, especially the dental professionals out there?
These are all, everything is top secret. Okay, that's not on the market. I can't tell you, but I'd say
some interesting things coming our way.
Interesting things coming. I would say if you've not seen or heard about Colgate Luminous, you can contact us. We'd be more than happy to have one of our oral care consultants, if we can, come out and see people. It's a very exciting piece of innovation that we think really brings something new and different in this area.
Yeah. Well, I'm so pleased about Perigard. I'm absolutely loving it. All of our patients are loving it. The simple things like the taste being nice really makes a huge difference, and patients are wanting to use it. So I think you guys have really got it right, and I think the fact that you're tailoring it for all different different individuals, for all different needs, at different values, as you said, it really works.
Yeah.
And I think it's exciting to see what's next, essentially.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Freya. That was
Thank you so
absolutely
much,
brilliant.
Rena. What a joy.
No, such a great insight into the world of Colgate.
Cool.
So thank you so much. And I'm sure the listeners also found it super interesting and insightful. So speak again soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.